Alrighty, welcome back to Cinema Pursuit. We are on our second half of the Golden Pursuit Awards for 2019. The first half we had covered 2014 movies and then the 2015 Oscars, and this time we're covering the 2019 movies and the respective 2020 Oscars for those movies. Zach, give me some thoughts about what type of year 2019 was for movies, because it was some fire, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I think I've come to the conclusion that the movies released in 2019 was probably the best and deepest group of movies in that decade. You got some really, really great newcomers like Bad Education, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Little Women. You got some franchise movies that have either reached the end of the road there, the Star Wars movie, which was not very good. But you also got, Joker. You got John Wick 3. You got Spider-Man Far From Home. So the Lego Movie 2. You got some actually good sequels in here, which is not always the case. So this is not only the deepest, but the best group of movies to come out in the 2010s. And one of the few years where I watched every single Best Picture winner and found even the ones that I wasn't a huge fan of, I found reasons to like. So overall a great year. What did you think about it?
I mean, I agree with everything you said. And we had a lot of good horror stuff, or horror related. Like The Lighthouse was horror adjacent. It could be counted as horror, maybe thriller in my head. Midsommar. We had, what else did we have? We had Us from Jordan Peele. Not his best movie in my opinion, but it was still, some real good juice. Ready or Not, which, after 5 years, those directors made, the last two Scream movies, and they have another movie coming out this year. So there's a lot of great creatives that, came out this year with some, I forgot Midsommar from Ari Aster.
Ad Astra, many good. Parasite as well, both fall in the thriller category.
And I have to add, Alita Battle Angel. Mm-hmm. Robert Rodriguez made himself a James Cameron movie, but it was really good. I know you still haven't seen it, but it was fire. The Kid Who Would Be King, that's from Joe Cornish. He made Attack the Block. That was fire. Last Black Man in San Francisco. That one did not get its due. It definitely could have been at the Oscars. The Farewell from Lulu Wang. Let's see. There's only a couple that are, you know what movie we forgot, right?
What?
Literally the biggest movie of the 2010s, Avengers Endgame.
Oh, yeah. Took us to 20 films to get to that?
Oh, yeah. You remember they made 23 movies and they're like, oh, let's top it off real quick.
Yeah, it might be the last, maybe not the last good Avengers film, but the last one that was noteworthy. That's a hot take for another day.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we can just watch Spider-Verse instead and have a better time. Okay,
so
whatever.
Before we get into it, I want to just say a couple things. First off, if you haven't listened to our 2014 podcast on this, what this is we go through the Oscars, and what we do is replace all the categories and nominees with who we would nominate from that year's group of movies, and then we pick a winner. And what the caveat to this game is that me and Vikash need to agree on a winner. So we can put down as many nominees as we want, and then we come to an agreement of who we think actually should have won the category that year. And then this is, our Golden Pursuits. We give them our little fake award. So that's what we're doing here. One more thing to add is
No. Now I gotta make an award.
Yeah.
I have to get it forged. Now I gotta find their emails. I gotta go track these people down and give them these awards since you said it's fake.
Yeah, I'm sure Al Pacino would really appreciate getting one. So
hey, I'm gonna make him a Dunkachino, okay?
So the only other thing I want to add is that there's a couple movies that are not eligible because they really weren't released this year. Letterboxd likes to put the date that they were maybe first seen at a film festival. We like to go by the first days that they were actually viewable by the average person, so either in a theater or a streaming service. So two notable exceptions is The Sound of Metal will not be on this year's list, and Bad Education will not be on this year's list, since both of those were really not viewable until 2020 and were not Oscar relevant until the 2021 Oscars.
We'll talk about it next year, but you know what the BS was with Bad Education, right? That HBO bought the movie, so the movie automatically went out of eligibility for the Oscars.
Yeah.
So it just went, it's just the Emmys for that one.
Yep.
It got nominated for the Emmys.
Yeah, it was really a big mistake, especially considering how weak the class of the 2021 Oscars was. But that's something we can get in next year. So for this year...
Oh, yeah. Hugh Jackman would have finally had his Oscar. And think about that.
He should have. And we'll but we'll get into that then. So for this year, let's get into the Golden Pursuits. Vikash, what's the first category?
Into the first category for the Oscars, Best Song. So for 2019 movies, the 2020 Oscars, they had nominated for the Oscars themselves. They had from Rocket Man, they had I'm Gonna Love Me Again. That's like Elton John wrote that, but I think it's Taron Egerton that sung that. And then it's I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away from Randy Newman for Toy Story 4. I'm Standing With You from Breakthrough from Diane Warren. Frozen 2 had Into the Unknown. And the Harriet Tubman movie, they had a song called Stand Up. So I don't think we have any of those nominated. Zach, what are our 2 nominations?
Yeah, we only have 2. And it's the catchy song from the Lego Movie 2 and Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting by Taron Egerton and Rocket Man.
Which I still listen to. That song's fire either way, but like Taron murders that cover for it.
Okay, I don't even know if that should even be a song, right? If it's just a cover, like that's a real song.
No, but I mean, it's it technically still counts as song. So when it comes to like those sorts of songs, even though they're covers, they still technically count. It's not a needle drop, so it's still a song,
I get what you're
like
saying.
A best song.
Yeah.
Because like in Booksmart, when she dives into the swimming pool, I forgot what the song is, but it's a really good needle drop in that movie, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't count because it's a needle drop and it's not a best song.
Because they're not actually singing it. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Or I mean like he like actually, went into the studio, put in the work and did the work. That's the only difference there is.
I gotcha. So just looking at, we really only have 2 nominees. This was not a great year for song at all. I'm leaning towards the catchy song from Lego Movie 2. I think that it actually was really...
Might as well.
Yeah, it was really big at the time. I listened to it when I was preparing for this podcast. It still sounds pretty good. There's something about those movies that just know how to make a catchy song, and I like that it kind of parodied that in the second movie by just calling it catchy song. It was a good meta moment, and it still was the best one from that year.
Can't Stop That Feeling from Justin Timberlake for the Troll soundtrack.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Or Happy from Despicable Me 2 for Pharrell. The song that like drove me insane after like 6 months.
Still does.
Okay.
That's an easy one and probably the least interesting discussion that we'll have the whole podcast. So buckle up.
Yeah. Okay, what do they have nominated for Best Animated Feature for the Oscars?
Sure. So for the 2020 Oscars for Best Animated Feature Film, the nominees were Missing Link, Claws, I Lost My Body, How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, and the winner was Toy Story 4.
I'm not necessarily mad with that.
It's not bad.
But I mean, because Toy Story is complaining that a good movie won is not a bad thing. So
no, Toy Story 4 is fine. It might not be as like great as the first 3, but compared to like the other movies that came out this year that were animated, it's still better than I would say all of them except Lego Movie 2, and they're both pretty close.
Nah. No. Let me give our nominations before I go into the whole spiel. So the movies that we nominated for Golden Pursuit are Toy Story 4, Lego Movie 2, How to Train Your Dragon 3, Claws, and Missing Link. And my whole point of all that is to say that I saw 4 or 5 of these movies in the theater, and Claws was a Netflix movie. That's why I didn't see it in the theater. So, and I literally, like Missing Link, I was the only person in that theater, and I dragged these 2 to go see Lego Movie 2 and Toy Story 4. I saw How to Train Your Dragon with my dad and my brother.
That's how much I love How to Train Your Dragon 3. Just popping in to let you know, Zachary, don't shit on that movie.
Zach, I'm giving it to How to Train Your Dragon 3. Like,
I will support that, even though
I
my
did
vote
see
doesn't
How to
count.
Train Your Dragon just before you try to tell me I did not. I did.
I didn't say it.
And I thought
did you see it sober?
I did. I probably did not pay as much attention as maybe my wife did, but I did watch it and I was sober. I just have a soft spot for Toy Story. I grew up, that was my favorite movie growing up. And so even the 4th one, as they squeezed my beloved franchise for the last bits of money they can, I still love it. So,
don't worry. Toy Story 5 and 6 are coming soon, man.
I wish they would
run it into the ground.
I wish they would have stopped, honestly. But whatever.
Yo, the Little Miss Bo Peep, the spinoff is about to be fire.
I'm willing just to give you How to Train Your Dragon because I don't feel that strongly about Toy Story 4 or Lego Movie 2 to argue it, to be honest.
Lego Movie 2 is like a couple steps down from the first movie. I ain't gonna lie about that.
It is.
Missing Link is good, but not great. Claws is really good, but not great.
You didn't want to...
It's clearly Toy Story 4 or How to Train Your Dragon 3.
You didn't want to nominate.
But I got to give it a How to Train Your Dragon 3 because they hit it on the nail. They ain't making another one.
You didn't want to nominate Lion King?
Guys, international film. So for international film this year for the Oscars, they had nominated Parasite, Corpus Christi from Poland, Honeyland from North Macedonia, Les Miserables from France, and then Pain and Glory from Spain, and that's from Pedro Almodovar.
What's the big missing movie here, Vikash?
Hey, it's not my fault that whatever politics in France did not enable Celine Sciamma to get Portrait of a Lady on Fire nominated as Best International Film from France. I think we had a similar situation that happened this year with Justine Triet and Anatomy of a Fall. Her movie's obviously the best one from France, but they didn't push the movie for some political reasons. Wink, wink.
Yeah, if you're not aware of how the international film works, usually the Oscar committee will ask the countries, and there's someone assigned in each country to make committee assigned to make this decision. And unfortunately, politics can come into play what each country's submission is. And so you get years like this year where Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is one of the best movies of the year, was not even nominated for international film.
I haven't seen the movie, but I know from what y'all tell me and from what everyone tells me that it's one of the best movies of the decade.
It is fantastic.
It did make
I'm excited to do that film on the pod.
Mm-hmm. It did make the Sight and Sound. Is it Sight and Sounds that do the list every 10 years? It made the list of the 100 best movies of all time. Came in a little high, but you know what? That's fine. It's a fantastic movie. It deserves the accolades, and I was happy with that.
I mean, anytime there's a romance movie with it, I'm excited. Honestly, I've been waiting. I could just hit it now, but I'm just waiting because we're already doing it on the podcast soon.
Might as well.
But so for international film, for our nominations, obviously we have Portrait of a Lady on Fire. We have Pain and Glory from Pedro Almodovar. Parasite from good old Bong Joon-ho, the GOAT. Shadow from Zhang Yimou from China, and Hilaro, which is a Gujarati movie. I am Gujarati in India, and that's a very intimate movie about, women from the area that I'm from, and it's just a great movie that I think anybody should go and see. I'm not going to argue it over Portrait of a Lady on Fire today. I'm going to give you that one, Zach.
Thank you.
But it's a special movie. And I will say, for the year that RRR came out, everyone was like, oh, SS Rajamouli, his movie's going to be pushed from India. But they didn't push that movie. They pushed a movie from my area of India. And it's a good movie, but it was not, the legendary RRR. But yeah. So is it Portrait?
Yeah, it's Portrait. Listen, I love Parasite. Okay. I'm not as high on it as maybe a lot of people were at the time. And even though it's very deserving, in a lot of years, Parasite would be the winner. I think Portrait of a Lady on Fire is one of the best movies of the 2010s and 100% deserves to be recognized here. So I agree with that.
I do want to give a little context, though. Like me, Zach, and Kat, we watched Parasite extremely early. I'm talking about before there was a lick of Oscar hype and it wasn't like, a multi, $100 million, whatever box office gross took the American audiences by storm, which is very surprising for a South Korean film. It's very deserved too, because it's Bong, but we saw it before everybody else. We really enjoy the movie, but I mean, I don't know. I'm weird. I'm like, y'all didn't see Okja? I'm the only guy that really loves that movie.
I did like Okja. It's one of those that you just can't ever really watch again, though, which is probably why it didn't resonate as much. It doesn't make you feel
I've
very
seen
good.
it 3 times.
Do you know?
I've seen it 3 times.
Do you know this made just in the U.S. Parasite made $72 million,
which is wild.
That's really
bonkers.
Good. The only movie, and I don't think it made this much, but the only movie I can remember that's a foreign film popping off like this as recently the Godzilla versus. What was it called?
Godzilla Minus One.
Godzilla Minus One.
Godzilla Minus One made. It's the highest grossing movie from Japan, and deservedly so. I know you still haven't seen it yet because it's not out anymore now, but it's a testament to they had $15 million, literally 10% of what maybe even less of what they have for these American Godzilla movies. And they made a much more compelling movie than I think 99% of the Godzilla movies they've made in America. So testament to everyone else around the world that can make transformative stories in their area of the world.
Yeah.
So Portrait of a Lady on Fire, that's international movies. Zach, we're going straight into Best Supporting Actor. This is like a stacked on stacked year. Hit me with the nominations that the Oscars gave.
Sure. So for the Best Actor in a Supporting Role, the Oscars nominated Joe Pesci for The Irishman, Al Pacino for
Goat.
The Irishman,
Goat.
Anthony Hopkins for The Two Popes,
Goat.
Tom Hanks for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood,
Goat.
and then the winner, again, this is a great category, the winner was Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Sexy and goated.
This was a great stacked supporting role cast, like, and not even from the performances, but from like these actors. These are all actors who have had absolutely awesome careers. They've had historically significant movies, and they all just came together to be nominated in this category. That's really historic stuff.
Like you said, 2019 is a confluence of like just amazing work in every single genre possible. Like everyone had like a really good movie in their genre this year. So this makes perfect sense. And you could nominate a lot more, and I think we have. I'm going to hit us with the Golden Pursuit Supporting Actor nominations. So we have Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Joe Pesci for The Irishman, we have Al Pacino for The Irishman, Wesley Snipes for Dolomite Is My Name, John Bernthal for Ford vs. Ferrari, Willem Dafoe for The Lighthouse, Jesse Plemons for El Camino, Chris Evans for The Knives Out, and then Skylar Gisondo for Booksmart, and Jack Rayner for Midsommar. Just a great range of young actors to very old actors, everything in between of just really juiced performances.
That's an exceptional list that we put together there, and it's insane the amount of talent that was just left on the cutting room floor. Like, Wesley Snipes is really good in Dolomite, you know. Chris Evans is like breaking character type to give a great performance in Knives Out. Willem Dafoe in The Lighthouse might be my favorite out of all of these, and he didn't even get nominated for the Oscars. Like, this is a great list. Lobster. So I know where I'm leaning on this. Where are you leaning?
I'm not leaning towards anybody besides Pacino, which I'm fine with letting it go today. So I'm gonna give you full reign on this because I think you like Pesci more in Irishman. I like Pacino more in Irishman. I think the relationship that Pacino's character and De Niro's character have is what runs the movie. So it's like Pesci really is a supporting actor, but I think Pacino kind of, supersedes him in a way where he's the one who's kind of almost a lead actor, but he isn't a lead actor, and he hits the juice with it right up till something bad happens to him.
No, Ray Romano was the best actor. I'm kidding. So
Ray Romano was good in that movie. They had a lot of random good actors in Irishman.
He was good. I think I do lean for that movie, not for the award. I actually lean Al Pacino, I think, but it's been a while since I've seen it.
You were leaning Pesci for a hot minute, bro.
I might have been. Like, I would have to go read my chats from back then, to be honest, because it's been a minute since I've seen this movie. It's been since 2019 since I've seen this. I haven't revisited it.
I mean, you can just pop it on. It's only 3.5 hours. It's not a big deal.
Dude, I just remember I turned it on. We were like an hour in. One of my friends messaged me about he was doing a birthday, and I was like, I got 2.5 hours. I can't go to your birthday. I was like, I gotta finish this movie.
Some people have pacing problems with the movie. I don't know how. I think Killers of the Flower Moon runs a bit faster, but it's still extremely compelling on the end of Irishman.
Saying all that, my choice would actually be William Dafoe in The Lighthouse.
Give it to him because he's super good in that movie. Like, Willem Dafoe really comes in on that. It was really just him and Robert Pattinson, and I think Eggers talks about it that it was not an easy shoot to have, and they were practically going crazy just doing what they were doing on this island, and Willem Dafoe delivers. He always delivers, but this is like, this is one of his best. That being said, the year before this, he was in Aquaman. And he's acting opposite of like the most like wooden actor. The kid I'm talking about. It's like, your mom, like, y'all like did this to my mom. I'm gonna send you the clip. It's so bad, but it's so funny.
It's almost like funny to say that Willem Dafoe had a transformative role at this point, because I feel like every role he does is transformative, that he's not playing the same character. He is one of our best character actors alive, but just the way that he carries himself in this movie, especially since it's from Robert Pattinson's character's point of view for most of it, as this deranged seaman who's like constantly trying to, you can't tell if he's trying to fuck with Robert Pattinson or if he's trying to like help him, or you can't read his intentions very well, and you never know what he's about to do last. But the way that he delivers his dialogue in that famous Hark monologue that he gives, where it's just the camera's focused on him and his eyes are just, I don't know,
bulging out his head.
Yeah, I don't know how.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why actors are amazing. I don't know how you can even make yourself do something like that. And there's a level of intensity to it that I think there's probably a very small list of actors in the world that could do that performance, and he did it there, and it was amazing.
It's like him and Jim Carrey. It's like they're the ones. He and both of those are very good at changing their faces.
Mhm.
Jim Carrey's obviously the GOAT at that, but Willem Dafoe, even with like Green Goblin, was doing some crazy stuff.
Oh yeah. Okay. You want to talk Best Supporting Actress?
For the Oscars, Best Supporting Actress, they had I Will Never Not Be Rich, Laura Dern for Marriage Story. They had Kathy Bates, the GOAT, for Richard Jewell, which, I mean, we forgot about that movie already. Scarlett Johansson for Jojo Rabbit. Florence Pugh Flo for Little Women, even though she's playing like a 12-year-old, and I could not believe it for 1 second. And then Margot Robbie for Bombshell. And I say that about Florence, being someone who loves her to death, and she literally had one of her best performances to date still in Midsommar. But they're like, oh yeah, Florence Pugh for Best Supporting Role in Little Women instead. That's the only trepidation I have about Little Women. Amazing movie. She was just cast she's too old. She was like 26 playing 12.
I completely agree, but when a movie is that good, I typically am willing to forgive choices like that, because I understood why they couldn't put someone else in that position. Like there wasn't really a good choice there, so I was fine with that.
She's the best choice for the drama that happens in like the third act of the movie, essentially.
Yeah. I will say that Laura Dern was a winner, by the way, for the Oscars.
Yeah, no, I'm still salty about that, because it very much felt like we had seen Big Little Lies season 2 had come out at that point, and I felt like all the Oscar winner, like the Oscar voters had seen Big Little Lies, and they're like, oh yeah, she's amazing in this. And then Marriage Story comes up, and it's like, she's good in the movie, but she's not as great as these other women.
You know, that happens a lot more than you would think. Matthew McConaughey, the year that he won for Dallas Buyers Club, which was a good performance, was the True Detective year, and it almost felt like they were also rewarding him for his True Detective performance, which was iconic, and for a movie that really has been forgotten about since it came out, and a performance that's probably been forgotten about too. Which now that I'm saying that, I can't remember if he actually won or not, but I know he was at least nominated.
No, he won.
Okay.
He has one of the best speeches, for me at least.
You're right.
Best actor, like acceptance speeches. Because, it's Matthew McConaughey. I don't know what it is about him. It's just his whole energy.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever he does off the screen, whatever, but like he's got the juice.
The University of Texas hired him to just be around their football program and give like speeches and stuff. And that's how good he is at what he does. Yeah.
And he probably ate that up too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, so I want to go down and read the supporting actresses that we have nominated.
Okay, go ahead.
So
I have one to add at the end.
Okay, so we are nominating Florence Pugh for Little Women, Vanessa Kirby for Hobbs and Shaw, Billy Lord for Booksmart. I know that's funny, the Hobbs and Shaw. Margot Robbie, but for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Margot Robbie's feet in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood also.
Don't
Dirty feet.
Speaking of that, we're also going to nominate Julia Fox in Uncut Gems. Need I say more?
Bro. Julia Fox is still an icon. If anybody's on like TikTok or whatever, follow her. She's just a cool human.
Yeah, really disappointing that she hasn't gotten more roles after that movie, because she was actually quite good in that. I put her on here because it's just kind of a funny, oh yeah, she was really attractive in that. But no, she was actually really good in the movie too.
Yeah, no, she had the juice.
Divine Randolph in Dolomite and Constance Wu in Hustlers.
And the one that I want to add is Zhao Shuzhen from The Farewell. She plays the grandma, the person that's like dying in the movie, and she plays the role extremely well. And the whole premise of it being that she's the one who doesn't know that she's dying, and it just sells so well in that movie. I will say Divine, she just had, what's the Christmas movie, Zach?
The Holdovers.
Divine just had The Holdovers, and she got her due finally, at all these awards and stuff, but she was fantastic in Dolomite. And it's just, I don't know what it was with Hollywood this year, but they did not give a single lick about Dolomite. And I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Ford versus Ferrari, that's like a ultimate 3 movies about like chasing greatness in trying to achieve that. And the two of those are real, or technically all three are real stories, low-key, and they're extremely good movies.
Yeah. No, there's one more that was like that too. Terminator Dark Fate.
They did hit greatness.
Chasing the greatness of the first couple movies in that franchise.
But I will say, like, in all seriousness, I know no like Terminator fan agrees with me. I think they actually started a path towards getting to that, which was like they were trying to get to a point where Sarah actually ends this whole entire cycle of the the Terminators coming back and all that. And low-key, it's like a meta thing of like them trying to make more Terminator stuff, but they're never going to get the chance to do it.
I promise you're going to see another Terminator in a few years with how AI has been, a hot topic that eventually someone's going to want to bring it back.
They pushed it in Dark Fate.
Yeah.
They brought in a writer's room to like kind of plan out the 3 stories, and they're like, okay, let's bring in AI experts. They did the whole thing, and they integrated, the AI stuff a little bit, and then humanoid stuff where it's like humans can have the Terminator stuff in them. And Mackenzie Davis's character, she's amazing as an actress too.
Mm-hmm.
She comes in real hot in the movie. And I literally did not give a shit about Arnold. I was like, oh, I forgot Arnold was in this movie when he showed up like halfway in. Because I was invested in the regular characters, but I will get off of Dark Fate.
Yeah, we spent more time discussing Dark Fate than I ever anticipated on this podcast.
It's a 4 out of 5. It is not, a 5 out of 5 like, Terminator 1 or Terminator 2, which is like a 6 out of 5 or like a 12 out of 5 for me. Okay, Best Supporting Actress. I am not really feeling too hot about anybody, honestly. I feel hot like emotionally for like Divine and Zhao, but that's about it.
Yeah, actually, weirdly, kind of a weaker year, I would say, for Best Supporting Actress.
Stupid. Margot.
Yeah.
She doesn't necessarily have too much dialogue, but like her existence within Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is so wholesome.
Yeah, no, I had her bolded on my personal sheet before this. I think that even though she didn't have a lot of dialogue or even a lot of screen time, it was important for her to convey a certain mystique about Sharon Tate that has always been her reputation. And not many people would be able to pull that off with little dialogue and not with too much flash or overacting either. And she does that correctly, and it's really how the emotional conclusion of the movie works, and it wouldn't work otherwise.
You know who else did this, right, this year? Anna Paquin. She plays the daughter in Irishman, and people were complaining, oh, she doesn't have too much dialogue. But it's like by the end of the movie, like what the resolution is with De Niro's character and then with her, I think she has like one big scene and that's it. And it's like she's always there silently judging her father for what he's doing. And that emotionally, she's the reason why it works too. I think that's like Steve Zalian doing his thing with that script.
Yeah, not to get on too much of a soapbox, but people need to understand that it's okay for a big actor or actress to come into a movie and do a fantastic job in a small role with limited dialogue, and it's not a director doing a disjustice to that actor. Sometimes the most memorable performances are just coming in for a little bit, stealing the show, and then leaving the scene. It happens in a lot of movies.
John Bernthal's entire career.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could even say famously in Silence of the Lambs, he's not actually in a lot of the movie, Anthony Hopkins. But guess what? We still think about that performance as a great villain performance, even though he's in I think less than 30 minutes or maybe 30 minutes of the movie.
Oh, it's even less than that.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about like Judi Dench and like Shakespeare in Love getting an Oscar win for not even that much screen time. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about genuine emotionality, like catharsis, payoff moments that characters are given. Like Margot Robbie's character, like Sharon Tate in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, she just exists in a wholesome way going through her life. And then I think it's almost a horrifying thing that we know what happens to her in real life, and that sort of expectation and then payoff with what happens in the third act of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is fantastic. And I think that's the reason why when we saw this movie in theaters, me, you, Kat, and then my brother and like another friend were the only people in the theater laughing because it was that good.
So I was not very familiar with the story. So I was hella fucking confused. And then I realized what was going on. And I was like, oh, and then I found it funny. But there was a whole disconnect there. And I was like, Zach, what the fuck's happening? And he's like, what do you mean?
Yeah, no, we were like legitimately laughing too hard.
Yeah.
You guys were. I was a little embarrassed.
Yeah, I mean, they're
Because Austin Butler comes through the door,
yeah.
and then this man's on like a mushroom sing or whatever.
Oh,
It's
dude.
so funny.
Fantastic scene.
And then the picture with the margaritas, and then we talking about like he comes out with the flamethrower, bro.
Iconic and underappreciated Leo performance in that, and we'll get to that later. I mean, even at the time, I don't think I appreciated it as much as I do now. Now that Leo's starting to play these characters who are against type, who maybe aren't super smart or super tidy or super like famous and rich like he likes to play in a lot of movies. This was like the first time I've seen him in a long time play a character like that. That's a little
play a putz.
Yeah, which he also ends up doing in Killers of the Flower Moon. One that's unlikable and unlovable, honestly. So
I love me that money.
I feel like this was the start of that in a lot of ways.
Bro, I can't wait for PTA's new movie. It looks so good. He's doing an action movie, man. He's been
awesome. Circling Leo for a while. He was originally going to be in, what was his most recent one?
Licorice Pizza?
Yeah.
No,
he was supposed to have
a trillion times better.
Yeah, he was supposed to have Bradley Cooper's role, I think, at one point.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like I'll show you the photos and all that. It's fire because it's set today too, and it's like action stuff. Okay, so we have Margot Robbie for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for Best Actress for the Golden Pursuits for ourselves. Zach, we're moving on to Best Score. Hit me with what the Oscars had for Best Score.
Sure. So this was a pretty good year for Best Original Score at the Oscars. The nominees were Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker for John Williams, 1917. 1917 for Thomas Newman, Marriage Story for Randy Newman, also, a Toy Story veteran there. Little Woman.
Their brothers or cousins.
Yeah, isn't that really cool? Little Women, Alexandra Desplat, and then Joker for, I'm going to butcher her whole name. Hildur. Yeah.
Let's just say Hildur,
who, as we mentioned before on multiple pods, famously learned under Johannesson, who did Arrival, which is one of our favorite scores.
So what won the Oscar?
Joker did, actually, which was a bit of a surprise at the time, I believe.
I mean, I think it's deserved. I think Hildur did a fantastic job
with
that. And it low-key, like, that Oscar is, like, it makes me happy that she won it because, like, Johan never got to... I don't think he got to win an Oscar. He was...
Yeah, the Arrival score was not eligible.
Yeah, and it's like he's done other great work. I think he got nominated for Theory of Everything, but that's not even like no Sicario, no nothing else. Like he did a score for Mother for Darren Aronofsky.
He didn't do Sicario. The man
threw it out the window.
He didn't do Sicario.
No, he didn't get a win for that. It was 2016.
He did
Oscars,
Sicario?
2015 movie. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I realized that. Holy crap.
He and Denny were, hand in hand.
Oh, imagine if he was still around and how he would have handled the Blade Runner score.
I think that's where they divided. I think he was still around then. And then, Hans did that.
Yeah.
And then imagine what he would have done with Dune.
Yeah.
Hans wouldn't have done Dune. Johan would have done Dune.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sliding doors there because if you think about it, Hans's career was already untouchable, but then Hans got to do all these really great sci-fi movie scores that he otherwise might not have gotten to do.
Hot take, Dune is like his best work in like 10 years. I mean, like he's had some really good work, but like it's been a hot minute.
I mean, that is
it's
a hot
best work
that's a hot take.
Or not 10 years, like it's his best work since like Interstellar.
I think there's an argument for Dunkirk, but you might be right.
Yeah, because I don't know, it transports you to that world. But let's give our nominations.
He's not nominated here, so let's give our nominations for best score. Vikash.
Let's stop talking about the guy that I listen too much on like Spotify. So for our Golden Pursuit score wise, we have Little Women, Marriage Story, Glass, 1917, Joker. I added in Nathan Johnson for Knives Out and Midsommar. And I wanted to give a special shout out to Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross for the Watchmen score. That was this year. It's TV, but it's still like really good work.
Yeah, I did want to say I wanted to find somewhere to add Glass into this list because I'm one of the few people on Earth who like this movie. I think the score was pretty good in it, and I think it actually, even though the movie didn't do well and is not critically acclaimed, I think it had some good moments in it, and the score was one of those. Saying that wouldn't be my choice for the winner, but I did want to give it a shout out.
What M. Night Shyamalan did with that and then with Split, you're saying it's not a success, but the movie was $20 million budget. They made $247 million.
On Glass?
Glass was like a smash hit.
Crap, I didn't think that. Oh.
And Split made plenty of money too, and it's like he knew what he was doing. And getting everybody back together for the Unbreakable stuff, man, I wouldn't say the movie's the best, but I was just glad to see it. We're Unbreakable fans here. But for the score, I find myself fighting for Joker, but I'm not going to put up a big fight.
I mean,
I will say I'm interested that, you know, Thomas Newman and Randy Newman were nominated. Quick little thing. John Williams got his first job doing like music work from their dad. Like all the way back. So it's like when Bridge of Spies came out, Thomas Newman was actually randomly the guy who picked up the work for Spielberg. And it just works out weird, right?
Yeah. I mean,
life is funny.
So my initial instinct, and I could be argued with, is to go with Little Women here. I think Desplot's score on that was perfect for fitting Greta Gerwig's vision of that movie, and it was probably it's the one that I remember the most from this year.
I think Joker is extremely well done and it fits the movie well. I think Knives Out is quite playful and it fits that movie extremely well. These are all really good scores, but Little Women is fun, so I'm gonna go with that. I don't know. That's the vibe I'm in today.
Okay. Oh, you make it easy on me. I'll take it.
Because I'm not exactly the biggest Desplat fan. If I know people who are, so I'm not a hater, but I'm not the biggest fan.
Did we get Desplat the award when we did the 2014 Oscars as well? Now I'm very curious.
Nah, we had to give it Interstellar.
Oh yeah, we definitely give it to Interstellar.
That's the problem for Grand Budapest. That's the problem.
This is a makeup award then, because he did an awesome job on Grand Budapest. So this is also a makeup award, like the Oscars love doing.
It's a makeup for us, but he still won for Grand Budapest.
The Oscars don't matter. What matters is what we decide. So who cares? So since you were so kind to let me pick the best score winner, I'm gonna give you the category that I know you love the most. Vikash, talk about best stunt work.
So best stunt work, it's not my problem that the Oscars don't know how to respect people who go in and risk their lives literally to do stunt work and deliver like these amazing pieces of action and movies. But we're going to do it, even if they don't want to do it. So the nominations that we have for 2019 movies, the first one is Terminator Dark Fate. We've already talked about that movie quite a bit. John Wick 3, Gemini Man, Shot in Savannah, but Hobbs and Shaw, and Alita Battle Angel. A lot of good action juice. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but a lot of good one. I don't think it's even a fight, Zach. What's the movie? Because I'm pretty sure we agree.
Yeah, this is John Wick 3. This was not like an overpowering action year by any matter. You know, there was some interesting camera work being done in Alita Battle Angel and Gemini Man. Hobbs and Shaw I thought was actually very fun. And we already talked about Dark Fate, but John Wick 3, even if it's not my favorite of the 4 movies that have come out so far, it's still an exceptional action flick that
one of the best ever made.
Yeah.
Still. Sad. That's how their worst is still their best.
Mm-hmm. And,
like still the best of the genre.
Yeah.
And even genre fans would agree.
Yeah.
Like me.
Exactly. They made this movie a lot bigger than the first 2, and it still was a success, which was a risk. And I want to reward that here. And the stunt work is fantastic as always.
And John Wick 4 just came out this past year, and they went even bigger, but that's a better movie than John Wick 4. But that's a conversation for a different day.
Definitely.
Best documentary, Zach.
Sure.
What did they have for it?
So for best documentary feature, the nominees were Honeyland, which was also a nominee for best foreign film, which is not something you see very often. For Sama, The Edge of Democracy, The Cave, and American Factory.
So I've seen Honeyland. I don't know how I've seen it, but I definitely saw it. And I've seen American Factory. I only say which movies we've seen because typically when we get to documentaries, it's not really somewhere that we're really strong on as much as I'd personally want to be. But our nominations for it are Apollo 11 and American Factory. And the little space fan in me, since I've been a kid, I love space stuff. I'm just going to go with Apollo 11. Incredibly well-made work. American Factory is too, but Apollo 11 is the juice.
Yeah, I'm willing to go with you there because the only one I've seen from this year was American Factory, and I did really enjoy it. It was actually produced by Netflix and produced by the Obama family, actually. The idea of going into a factory that was bought by, I want to say it was China, or Chinese companies. Yeah. And trying to see the cultures clash as you try to run a productive company with, there's a lot going on there. And it's been a while since I watched it, so that's why I can't describe it much better than this. And it's really interesting. And if you have any, I would guess, interest in seeing the intersectionality between those two cultures like that have very different values, that would be something that would be cool for you to check out. But like, Vikash said, Apollo 11's a really cool movie. I still haven't gotten a chance to see it, but I'll go with your take there.
Because I live American Factory in my life. I'm literally an American. I'm an Indian American. My entire life is American Factory. That's all. I'm going to get into original screenplay. For the Oscars for original screenplay, they had nominated for original, not adapted. For original, they had Parasite, Knives Out, Marriage Story, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's a good list right there, man. Even with like, I guess 1917 is kind of not the strongest one, but it's still good.
You still got to write what happens in the movie, even if it's like a one take, one shot type deal. So yeah, it's still a good script.
And obviously Parasite won. It was a, big win for Bong and for South Korea to have Parasite winning. I mean, it's very rare that a movie outside of America gets nominated for regular Oscars. I would have hoped that something like RRR would have gotten a lot more nominations at least this past year. But I'm glad that Parasite at least was, pushing for international cinema. And it deserves the win that it got. But what are our nominations, Zach?
Sure. So for Best Original Screenplay, we have nominated Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Parasite, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Uncut Gems, The Lighthouse, The Farewell, and Knives Out.
Okay, that's a juice list right there.
It's an amazing list.
Okay, now, oh shit, we're gonna fight about this shit right here.
We might, because I bolded something, and I don't even like what I bolded at this point, so I'm open to discussion.
Okay, it's not Uncut Gems, it's not Lighthouse.
That's what I have bolded, though. I have Uncut Gems bolded.
Okay, I think Uncut Gems is a really good script, but I think that they make a specific type of movie, but I don't think it's the best script here.
I think a lot of that movie does hinge on the Adam Sandler performance, so I don't want to over-reward the script for an amazing acting performance.
But it's like, from writer, director, producers, like the Safdie brothers, they did their thing with that. So I'm not discounting them by any means. I really do love their movie. And I just remembered that we forgot to nominate Daniel Lopatin for best score because the score for that movie is really good.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have won either way, but I'm going to throw that out there retroactively.
So where are you leaning?
Okay. Objectively, Farewell, Portrait, Parasite, Hollywood, that's where I'm leaning. Those four. Because I think those are four novel movies with compelling work.
Okay. Let me ask.
I feel like it's almost a cop-out to give it to Tarantino.
Well, that's where I'm leaning now, but let me frame it this way then, and then that'll help our decision. Would you consider Hollywood to be a top 3 Tarantino script? Not movie, a script. You would?
Yes.
How would you rank the top 3 off the cuff?
Off the dome, it'd be Bastards, Django, and this.
For script.
And then Pulp Fiction, even though I'm not the hottest Pulp Fiction fan, per se, in my rankings wise. Great movie, obviously. But yeah, those are the top 3. That's in the top 3. And I think the more I rewatch it, I feel like it's going to go up.
That's what I'm thinking, that I think just based purely on the script, it's probably also in my top 3, maybe even my top 2. I would almost argue that it's better than Django's script, even though I like Django more.
I think the dialogue's better in Django. Or both of them have really good dialogue, but like Django is dialogue heavy, whereas this is dialogue empty.
Yeah.
But the problem is that to make a dialogue empty vibe movie, that is a harder task than a dialogue heavy movie. They're just as hard, but I mean, this is harder, especially for like audiences to like grasp too.
Okay, so yeah, let's narrow it down. Let's take out The Lighthouse. Let's take out Knives Out. Let's take out Uncut Gems.
I'm good with Hollywood. That makes me happy. I'm good with that.
Me too. And
you don't think Portrait deserves
until you see
screenplay?
No, I don't think. I think until you see it, we can't even have the right argument. But even.
Okay.
I think Portrait's an amazing screenplay, but I think Hollywood is doing a level of nostalgia that's not taking anything for granted, that is almost impossible to pull off.
No one can really replicate that. It's hard to touch.
I've seen Portrait of a Lady Fire done before.
I think Farewell is probably like Portrait of the Lady on Fire, that sort of level of work, where it's really good. It's novel work that's emotional in a good way. But they're not necessarily, I wouldn't say they're basic, but I mean, Hollywood. We'll go with Hollywood.
Yeah, let's go with it. That's a tough one, man. Okay, so now we're moving on to adapted screenplay. Let me read you the nominees for that year. Okay, so for adapted screenplay, The Two Popes, Little Women, Joker, The Irishman, and the winner was Jojo Rabbit.
For adapted screenplay,
Yeah, that was the one thing that happened during that Oscars that I was not very happy about. Me and Vikash are not big fans of Jojo Rabbit, the movie. Vikash is a huge fan of Taika Waititi too.
Let's say since 2019, those feelings have bittered a little bit, but I respect his work. Hunt for the Wilder People, The Boy, Thor Ragnarok are like some of the funniest, most compelling movies I've seen in my life. I think he's a great director in that sense. I still need to see Next Goal Wins. I hope it's more, based towards that stuff. I been bittering myself a bit on him, but I think the problem for me was that I heard you painted Houses, which is the book that Steve Zalian, Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, the book that they got Irishman from Steve Zalian is one of the greatest screenwriters we have, and I think that script was fantastic. So my bias runs that way. But saying that I'm practically a lifelong fan of Steve Zalian, I grew up not liking Little Women. I had a girl in my class in elementary school that would read Little Women, and I was like, hey, let's swap books. And we'd read each other's books, and I would hate every second of it because Little Women at that point was stale for me. It's been stale every time I had tried to read it, and that's just me being a bad person, I guess, because Greta made a fantastic screenplay with it. So I will give our nominations. We only have 3 for this year for adapted screenplay. It's Little Women, Dolomite Is My Name, and The Irishman. And Dolomite Is My Name does not get enough credit for that movie was fantastic too. It's the same vibe, like I already said, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Ford versus Ferrari, Dolomite Is My Name, all in the same category of movies that I highly recommend.
Yeah.
But Little Women, I don't know what you're going for. I'm going to be a bastion for Greta Gerwig today.
Yeah, unfortunately, when I was making my list, I went ahead and wrote down Bad Education, and then I had to go delete it 2 minutes before we started because I realized that doesn't count for this year. So with that said, I totally agree with you. I think Little Women is the pick. I think the way that you take a movie like that traditionally has been overdone and done so many times, and find a new and interesting way to tell the story that is not modernizing it, that's not doing something hokey with it, that's not changing the source material, but is instead just changing the frame of the story and the order in which it's told. The way she did that was powerful. It made the narrative that is, hundreds of years old at this point come up with new. There's new. She
it's
found
novelty and it's compelling. It's both of those.
She found new text in an old text. Essentially, she found a new way to see it, and that is really difficult to do.
A new perspective.
There you go. A new perspective. She found a new perspective on how to tell a story that is old. And that is not an easy thing to do. And that's why I want to give it to her.
And obviously you can recontextualize a movie and just be like, oh, let's set Little Women today. But that's not what she did. She did it the hard way.
She did.
And even someone like me I don't really like, period pictures like that, monarchy stuff. I'm not into it really. But it's like when they do compelling stuff like this, I'm a big fan. So Little Women it is for adapted screenplay. And that goes right into Best Director. 2020 or 2019 movies, Best Director. We had a bunch of men nominated. We had Parasite, Bong Joon-ho, The Irishman, Marty, Joker, Todd Phillips. The Hangover was better. 1917, Sam Mendes, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for QT.
Okay.
Cute man himself.
So minus Sam Mendes and
Todd Phillips.
That Bong Joon-ho, Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino. That's a good 3 for real.
That's a goated 3. Honestly,
that's a good 3.
Bong has added himself to that context of the goats. And anybody who's seen all of his movies knows the man he is up there.
Oh yeah. So just talking about the Oscars specifically, I remember the night that we were watching, there was a whole discussion where is it going to be 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, or Parasite? Which one's going to win? 1917 was the one that a lot of people thought would win because it won a lot of precursor awards. So the moment though, and by the way, Sam Mendes won a lot of precursor directing awards too. The moment that Bong Joon-ho won Best Director for Parasite was the moment everybody watching was like, oh my God, there's a chance that a Parasite, a foreign film, can win Best Picture. The first time I believe that's ever happened. Depending on how you count things. Yeah.
And it's usually it's the DGA. We can talk in perspective 2023 movies. Right now, Christopher Nolan won the DGA. He's won everything else. That our man Nolan's about to win his first directing Oscar, and the man's deserved it for like the last 15 years, if not 20 years. But besides that, it's like, yeah, it was Sam Mendes that was, at the forefront of it. And Bong came out of nowhere in a good way to win.
I would
So,
say this is the.
I don't know what that is.
This is like
I don't know who was voting.
This was like the equivalent of like watching election coverage and seeing like Joe Biden win Georgia. It was like, oh my God, wait, is he gonna win this? Like that's how it was with Bong Joon-ho here. It was like, oh my God, like this, he has a chance now. If they liked it that much to give him director, he might win Best Picture. I love when the Oscars are this competitive that like every award actually matters leading up to Best Picture. It was a really fun Oscars to watch.
And I think this is where Bong was like the 1 inch of text on the screen can open up like the entire world to you, which is just Americans need to start watching movies with subtitles. Go just watch other movies. And that's what we were talking about Godzilla -1. That's one of my favorite parts of that movie is that I don't know anything. I mean, I know a little bit about Japan. I don't know that much about the people, but the story that movie gives emotionally is just something else. Zach, hit me with our nominees for Golden Pursuit directors.
Sure. So we have quite a few here because there's just a lot of really well-made films. For Best Director, we've nominated Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Greta Gerwig for Little Woman, Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, Celine Sciamma for Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Booksmart for Olivia Wilde. Listen, I know Olivia Wilde is not like in the best PR stance.
We don't claim her. We don't claim her like that, guys. Like, I was a fan growing up with House, but like we don't claim her anymore.
I get it.
She was good in Babylon, though. I'll tell you that for like her 2 seconds.
Yeah, I get it, but I will say Booksmart as her first directorial feature was a really good movie, and I wanted to give her credit for that. So she gets a Best Director nom.
I will say one more retroactive shout out to, I think her name's Kate Seiberlin. She co-wrote Booksmart. We didn't nominate her for screenplay, but she also wrote a movie called Set It Up. It's a rom-com from 2019. It's on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, you like rom-coms, check it out. But I think she's one of the reasons why that movie works so well. So that pairing along with Olivia, because she did go on to write Don't Worry Darling or whatever, is the reason why that movie worked. I don't want to talk about the other one, but let's continue. We got Marty for Irishman, obviously, Ari Aster for Midsommar, and Chad Stahelski for John Wick 3, because no one on earth could make John Wick 3 besides him.
Okay.
Oh, man. This is another headache of a list. I forgot one. We have James Mangold for Ford versus Ferrari, because that's not an easy movie to make either.
Yeah, it's not an easy list because this is one thing about this year being so strong is that you get to a lot of categories where there's not a clear winner. I don't think there is a clear, better directing job than like Tarantino, Gerwig, Bong Joon-ho, like Marty, like there's no clear winner, so it's really more of just like personal taste. Who do we think did the best job?
Because I could say, like, yeah, like Chad Stahelski, no, like he's the only one who could make that movie, and he did the crap out of it. But I could argue that for Greta also. I could argue it for Tarantino. I could argue it for Bong, Celine, because a lot of these people are invested behind the camera very well. Like Ari, Chad, Olivia, Celine, Bong, Greta, Tarantino, all are somewhat giving a lot of input when it comes to writing. So, where are you pointing today?
I'm leaning towards Tarantino. I think he's the only one who could have done that. And I think if both of us agree this is a top 3 movie from him with his filmography, I think it has to be him. I don't think this is going to be Greta Gerwig's best. I don't think this is Bong Joon-ho's best. And the rest of them we'll have to see. This is Marty's best. Tarantino, this might not be his best, but it's going to be like a top. I think it's going to end up as a top 3 movie in his career.
It's still a top 3. Like that's the movie you put in the criterion for him. Marty, actually, this is the one they put in the criterion. This is a top 5 movie from him. But he also put out Silence. He put out Wolf of Wall Street. He put out Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
Which are still all like some of the best movies he's ever made. And the man is practically geriatric, and it's a testament to never stop working. But Chad Stahelski, same thing. That's not his best movie either. He's made 4 movies, I think.
We literally gave it to him for John Wick 1.
Oh yeah, we did. That's why we're not giving it to him, because 1 is better, 2 is the best, and 4 is amazing too. So Tarantino it is. But I will say, as of now, Little Women is still Greta Gerwig's best movie.
Whenever you come and watch Portrait of a Lady on Fire, I'm going to make you go on here and see if you still feel the same about these categories. I'm really interested to see if you would still feel the same after you
still
see
feel
it.
the same for the most part.
I'm
I feel like
interested
he
to
won't
see.
change his opinion.
I'm interested to see if you do though.
So we have Tarantino, Once Upon a Time for Best Director. Zach, we are going into cinematography. We were just talking about portrait. I'm going to hit on that when we get into this. Who are the nominations that the Oscars had?
Sure. So for Best Cinematography in 2020, the Oscars nominated Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Robert Richardson. Lighthouse, can't pronounce that name, I apologize. Jaron
Blanche. Blanche, yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic DP.
Joker, Lawrence Sher. The Irishman, Rodrigo Prieto. And
Rodrigo is
the winner
I don't know if he got nominated. Who was the winner?
The winner was 1917, Roger Deakins.
Oh, the GOAT? Yeah, I swear to God, Hollywood, if you ever make another one-take movie again, I will hate you forever because Deakins did it. He goated it. Nobody else needs to do it. Stop wasting your time with that stuff unless it's like one of the best ideas you've ever had in your life. But, I mean, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, that it's not necessary. I think it's a beautiful movie. I think he did it justice. Like, Deakins did his thing in that. But I don't think it's his best work.
No,
but he is the GOAT.
He does have like an amazing body of work though. Like, you know, this man's done Fargo. He's done
Assassination of Jesse James.
Yeah,
No Country
like,
for Old Men.
I'm
Skyfall,
blanking, but he's done everything.
Blade Runner, and like he's done so much great work. But this it's like it's a consolation.
I've come back around on this movie actually to where I think it was deserved, and I think that he did a great job. Like, I was mad, I didn't love the movie in the moment, but I've kind of circled back, and now I'm like, yeah, he did a fantastic job on this. Yeah,
it's a good movie though. It really is. And I think it almost gives like this emotional, like by the end, it's like the emotion I get from the end of Gladiators, the emotion I get at the end of 1917. Not easy to sell, but it's a tiring movie to make, and Deakins is a GOAT. But that being said, I have a long list of nominations.
Go ahead.
For us, we have 1917, The GOAT, Deakins. Little Women, Portrait for the Lady on Fire, Claire Mathon, if I remember correctly, shot that. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We have Lighthouse, Jaron Blanche. Ad Astra, Hoyte van Hoytema. We have Midsommar, fantastic DP there too. He did Nobody. I think that's the only thing you've seen that he's done, Zach. And then John Wick 3, that's shot by Dan Lostenson, fantastic DP. Ford versus Ferrari, fantastic DP there too. He works a lot with Alexander Payne. Knives Out, that's a Steve Yedlin. Uncut Gems, Parasite, Irishman, and The Joker. And a lot of good visual work this year.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin with this, to be honest.
The standouts for me are Knives Out, Uncut Gems. Joker was really well shot. Midsommar is like one of the best shot movies ever for me, honestly. Lighthouse was fantastically shot. Hollywood was fantastically shot. Like, Robert Richardson is a GOAT. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, you tell me on that. I think Claire Mathon is like a great DP from like the other Celine movies I've seen.
The cinematography in that was exceptional, I will say.
So, better or worse than Hollywood?
Well, so if I were to tell you the three I like from this, let's start with that. The three I like from this is Hollywood, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and Lighthouse.
Okay. I agree with those three. I'd add Midsommar to that. That's about it.
Okay. Well, then I'm missing Midsommar and you're missing Portrait of a Lady on Fire then. So we can take both of those out if you want.
Okay. We'll take both of them out just to not argue about it.
Yeah.
Because I think you'll agree that they made a horror movie that's set in the light and it's lusciously shot, and there's parts of Midsommar that are quite trippy, and it's extremely well done. Powell shot the crap out of that too.
Yeah.
And Portrait, I know the shots. I've seen like 7 shots out of that movie that people keep sharing nonstop.
There's a few shots in that movie that you just never forget when you see it. So yeah, there's some incredible shots. But like I said, due to the fact that I haven't seen Midsommar and you haven't seen Portrait of a Lady on Fire, let's kill them both and let's argue about the two we both have seen.
Okay, so Hollywood versus Lighthouse.
Very different movies.
Talk about like 4x3 or whatever versus like, whatever Robert Richardson shot on for
like
Hollywood.
80 millimeter or whatever, like
yeah, very different. I'm gonna go Hollywood, honestly. I ain't even gonna lie. I think if you're talking from a cinematography perspective, I think both of the movies visually are paired perfectly with their stories. but I think Lighthouse is the harder movie to make per se, like in that sense. But I like Hollywood more, so you tell me.
I'm leaning towards Lighthouse because I think you have to give them some credit, even though it might be more of a production design thing. You have to give credit for the difficulty to shoot a black and white movie where you know it's a 4:3 ratio. I think there's an aspect of difficulty there that is not in any of these other movies, and I'd like to reward that.
I can go with Lighthouse. Jaron Blanche is a great DP, and I think what he's done with that movie is a testament to what Eggers does. And all the movies they've done together are really well made. And we have Nosferatu coming soon, so
and I want to
give it a Lighthouse.
Yeah, I want to spread the wealth a little bit too. I don't want to give Hollywood everything. We gave him 2 of the last.
No. I'm glad to give it to Jaron Blanche. He and Eggers, they went together on Deacon's podcast, if anybody listened to podcasts, and they talked about their work together because they've worked on The Northman, The Witch, Lighthouse. They've worked on everything together. So they're definitely, going to be one of the best duos of like director, cinematographer, just like Tarantino is with Robert Richardson.
Oh, yeah.
So that being said, let's get into costume because I think costume's going to be a pretty fast one. Even though we have some really good costume.
I think it'll be fun, but yeah.
So costume design, the Oscars had nominated Jacqueline Durand for Little Women. I think she just did Barbie this year. They have The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We're getting to the point where it's like the movies with the most hype had, a lot of nominations.
Little Women was the winner.
Little Women was the winner. I think the only one our nominations that we had for it, before I do get into this whole spiel, was 1917, Little Women, The Lighthouse, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, American Factory, Low-Key, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Knives Out, and Dolomite Is My Name.
I put American Factory on the list, even though it is a...
Yeah, that's what I was like. It's a documentary.
It's a documentary, but I'm going to be honest. There's like, if you were to just make this like a real movie and not a documentary, the way that they're all, you see the different cultures dressed in their business attire, I think is really useful in telling that story. And I wanted to give it a shout out for costuming, even though in no way would this ever be nominated in a category.
I mean, life imitating art or art being art or life being art. There we go. But I mean, I respect it. I mean, American Factory is really good.
Yeah. So where are you
Jacqueline Durand won for Little Women. I think that's deserved. But from what I've seen from Portrait of a Lady on Fire, I think that's better. I think Lighthouse is better. I really love what they did with Knives Out and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Dolomite. A lot of good costume work. But the best... Okay, I'm going to throw Little Women out the door for now. I'm not going to...
Yeah, Little Women...
I've already said that's not my thing.
Well,
usually.
let's say that it's good, but it's period piece, and we see period piece win this almost every year. So I'm good with throwing that out.
I think Knives Out is one where it's like, it's set today, and I think all the costumes are really good for all those characters. And I think everybody always remembers Chris Evans in that sweater.
Yep.
It's a simple sweater, but it's so well done. And it's like, even the kids are well dressed. Little incel kid, on the phone in the bathroom. And I think, what's his name? Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc. He looks so good in that movie. And even Marta, like Ana de Armas' character, to play, a person who's supposed to be, working class individual in this, higher echelon, quote unquote, world of these terrible people in this family dressed as a nurse. Even that stuff is compelling. By the end, when she's holding, the cup, the mug and all that, it's good costumes. But you tell me.
Yeah. So I would say where I'm leaning, I'm not even leaning. I think Dolomite.
I'm good with Dolomite, man. That's good with me.
I think some of the stuff.
Hollywood has good costumes too, but Dolomite is a hard one to pick. It's a hard movie to do.
I think some of the stuff that Wesley Snipes is wearing in that movie is outstanding.
Snazzy.
And
it's snazzy.
It takes an eye for what's going to pop and what's going to fit this very specific vibe of trying to make, a blaxploitation film. It's not an easy thing to pick the right outfits for that, and they did, and it is awesome.
And it could, honestly, if they didn't do it right, it could come off as straight up, it could be some racist stuff if you didn't have the costumes right. And they hit it right. Craig Brewer, who directed that movie, he's made some other compelling work, but I don't think he got his credit for Dolomite Is My Name. Great movie. So we'll give it to Dolomite.
Let's do it.
Dolomite is my name and fucking motherfuckers up his money. What is it?
I think he says my game. Yeah.
My game is so good. And we're going to get into Eddie when we get into it. But let's hit sound first. So Zach, hit me with, I guess, both categories for sound. Who is nominated this year?
Sure. So what we do is we combine sound editing and sound mixing, which I think the Oscars have started doing actually, but they didn't do it this year. I'm going to read them both. For sound editing, it was Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 1917, Joker, and Ford versus Ferrari was the winner. For sound mixing, it was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Joker, Ford versus Ferrari, Ad Astra, and then 1917 won. So there must be a difference between sound mixing and sound editing because they gave it to two different movies.
I mean, sound editing is like, like when we edit the podcast, that is sound editing for the most part, right? Sound mixing is, the famous example is, from Michael Caine in Interstellar, right? And obviously he mixes his movies to be, be that way purposely. But yeah, there is a difference. And I think Ad Astra got a mixing award just for that. The chase on the moon?
Yeah.
I think they got that nomination totally just for that scene. And
it was
really good scene.
It was good.
But for our nominations, we're just, keeping it sound. 1917, Ford versus Ferrari, John Wick, Uncut Gems, Parasite, and Lighthouse. And those are our sound ones. And I think I'm leaning Ford versus Ferrari and Uncut Gems and low-key Lighthouse. Those are the three I'm leaning towards.
I didn't think about Lighthouse, and you're right. There is some interesting use of sound in that, but I really think it's Ford versus Ferrari. Just the way that the cars sound, and that sounds like probably the dumbest sentence I've said in a while, the way the cars sound.
It's not.
But
you know why?
It's true.
You know why it's not stupid? Because they were in garages recording actual Ferraris and stuff, getting the revs and all the sounds for the movie. And I have rewatched Ford versus Ferrari recently, and it went from being a great movie to being an amazing movie, honestly, for me. And that movie holds up, and every time you rewatch it, you'll be like, fuck, that gets better. It just gets better.
It's one of the best sounding movies I've seen in a theater, I would say, since Interstellar and Gravity, which are both space movies.
I took my mother to see Ford versus Ferrari, and she loved that shit.
I saw that with my dad and my brother because I knew that would be the best dad movie ever. And guess what? It is.
It is. Especially by the end. Oh, man.
That's what I'm
saying. Like, even Once Upon a Time and Dolomite, they sit in this, like, very distinct category of, like, vibe movies. And I think, obviously Ford versus Ferrari and Dolomite have, like, forward narratives, but, like, I think they're vibe movies. But I'm glad to give it to sound, but let's get into makeup and hair after that. We have, I don't know what type of year this was for makeup. I think every year, if you have any movie they have Bombshell nominated because they had some, like, facial work for, like, I guess making them look like the people they're actually playing. They had Joker, Judy, which they made Judy. It won an Oscar for lead actress. We're going to get into it in a minute. They had Maleficent, Mistress is Evil, the second film, and 1917 nominated. And for us, I think we have Portrait of a Lady on Fire. We have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but that's all we have pretty much.
Can I add a late addition?
For makeup.
I just thought of.
Go ahead.
I think Uncut Gems should be nominated.
I was thinking about his face for a minute, though.
Him having a beat up face the whole movie, I think that's some real makeup work.
Yeah. I did low-key want to add Rocket Man, too.
Okay.
Because Taron Egerton in that movie, he had some work done. He really had to do it. But, what are we leaning towards here?
So is it, Kat, I need your opinion on this. Is it sexist if I want to give this to Portrait of a Lady on Fire?
Only if the reason is because it's a lesbian film.
It's not, but I can't think of a good reason right now to say why I want to give it to them. But I feel like, they look gorgeous in the movie. They do a great job with the no makeup look. I was going to
say, I think their hair and makeup,
yeah.
Their hair and makeup is really good. And you're right about how Uncut Gems has that, like, beat up look. That's also not easy to do, especially consistently. But I would give it to, I hate to give it to a period piece, but Portrait's just such a good film.
Portrait was shot on film, right?
I think so. I would need to look that up.
It looks like it was shot on film. I think, yeah, that's good. Okay,
but
I agree.
I think it would be really good. Their hair and makeup, I think they deserve it.
That works for me. We didn't really have any, transformational sci-fi film or anything like that. No. It's nothing where it's like, not like a Star Trek Beyond or like a Guardians of the Galaxy where you got like
body
full
paint.
Human beings. Even like, the crazy makeup designs and stuff, like masks and aliens and stuff. They didn't have anything like that this year.
We did have one, but I didn't love how they did it. Well, no, they didn't actually. I was going to say Irishman, but that was more of a visual effects thing. So never mind.
That's visual effects.
Yeah, that's not it.
That being said, let's get into visual effects. Zach, who did they have nominated for visual effects? Because tell me who they have.
Fantastic transition, Vikash. So for visual effects, the Oscar nominees were Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker, The Lion King, The Irishman, Avengers: Endgame, and the winner was 1917.
Wait, what? Wait, well, hold the fuck up. Did you just say? Wait, oh, you said VFX. I thought you said makeup for Lion King for a second. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, they had
Confused?
Beyonce had to get some makeup to look like a lion.
I was gonna say it's the hair of the mane.
I mean, Nala's a fine lion. That's all I'm gonna say.
Don't
any
say
Lion
that.
King fans out there?
Don't say that.
They didn't even do the scene at night. It goes against the song. That movie is trash for that only reason. I hate it because of that.
I know it goes against everything we would ever do to want to do like a worst acting performance, but her voice performance in that movie would legitimately be my winner for the worst acting performance I saw in this year. It was horrible. She did not give a shit the whole time. It felt like
you cannot burn her to the public.
Yeah, the Bay Hive, come get me. She was not good in Lion King.
Hey, don't act. Hey, hold up. Don't act like we don't like Austin Powers and the Gold Member. We fans, okay?
No, I'm a fan.
I'm just saying, yeah. I've seen Pink Panther. I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
I'm a fan. I'm just not a fan of her in that movie.
I was gonna say we do not shit on a queen on this podcast.
That new song,
never.
Hold 'Em, I see it all over my Instagram. I only hear the first 5 seconds of the song when I'm scrolling, but fan of the first 5 seconds of that.
I mean, she's from Houston. I mean, it's expected. That song is a banger, but even then I don't listen to it. Okay, hey, let's get into VFX. Who did we have nominated for VFX? We had nominated 1917, Ford versus Ferrari, Parasite, Alita Battle Angel, and The Irishman.
So my first instinct was actually The Irishman. I think people have overrated how old, De Niro and them look. I think they did a great job with hiding that.
I mean, it's an interesting year because we do have that, that Irishman stuff. And I think the only reason the Irishman stuff, I've had recent people tell me that I've seen the movie recently. They're like, it doesn't look too good. I think the only reason why is because they changed De Niro's eye color. And I didn't think about it till I saw the movie and I was like, oh, hey, something's off here. And then they're like, oh yeah, we changed his eye color because of something. And it just doesn't help.
And I think I mentioned this earlier. I'm always willing to suspend a little bit of disbelief when it's a good movie. So yeah, the VFX wasn't perfect. There's no way to not make him look old. But I was willing to I thought it was fine for what it was trying to do.
Oh no, it works. It works. It definitely works. That's why it's even when I rewatch it, I'm sure I'll be fine with it. 1917, obviously, making a war movie, especially with this sort of all these shots, this continuous shot stuff, it takes a lot of work. Even Ford versus Ferrari, a movie where they're like, oh yeah, we did all this practically. They still, they shot stuff literally where we live, but the movie takes place elsewhere, for the car stuff. All the crowds are fake. There's a lot of VFX in that movie, but it's pretty seamless if you're not looking super hard. Alita, literally, they've got a Japanese anime eye looking girl for their lead character, and it looks good the entire movie. I think it's fantastic work, honestly. And our last nomination was Parasite. If you go to YouTube, look up the VFX breakdown for that movie. He has Fincher level VFX work where it's you can't even tell. The house that he has in Parasite, the house where the movie takes place. That's a set. So you can't tell, but they do it extremely well.
I'm adding Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
Okay, we're gonna go with
Pokemon's the winner.
Alita's the winner. Alita's the winner since you want to say fucking Pokemon.
No. I'm fine with that because my only argument was going to be for 1917, but I know what Alita did, and I'm fine with that.
But Alita, they have some characters. Ed Skrein's character in that movie he looks ratchet as hell in that movie, but they did so much VFX and it looks extremely good. This year they had the creator from Gareth Edwards or Gareth Evans, whichever one it is, and they had a lot of humanoid characters that are robots and humans, and it's practically seamless now. They can do that stuff. I wouldn't say in their sleep, but they can do it extremely well now where it's you can't even notice if it's a humanoid that's a robot and a human being too. So Alita Battle Angel won, and I'm happy with that. They need to make a sequel, man.
Congratulations to Robert Rodriguez.
And man, just make an Alita movie and it's Machete in there. we could put Danny Trejo up in there. He would actually fit in that world. Spy Kids, throw the Spy Kids in there.
We're on production design. I really like this category because I think this is a very underrated part of designing a movie. Is like, hey, like I get your, the director's filming and writing and all that stuff, but like somebody's got to decide how it's actually going to look. Someone's got to find all the pieces. Someone's got to come up conceptually with how every single scene is actually going to freaking look in the movie. So I really...
Where are we going to shoot this? Is it a set? Do I have to make this set? And I will give a quick story that Ruth DeJong, she's the person who did Oppenheimer. She literally had to make the White House set within like a week or less because they lost the set or something in travel. So they were working around the clock to build a set. Like if you were in LA, you were there on your free time 24/7 working on the Oppenheimer set to make for the one little simple scene with Truman at the White House. And she was like, literally the day that we were shooting, the paint was still drying. So production design is a testament to who these people are.
God, I would
and literally, she said, like she's gonna be working with Nolan again because she's that good at her job. So who are these people that were good at their job this year, Zach?
Yeah. So for production design, the Oscars nominated Parasite, 1917, Jojo Rabbit, The Irishman, and the winner was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Solid list right there of production design. Dennis Gassner's the only name that really comes up in my head. He did Blade Runner, if I remember right. But it's like production design is, especially with a movie, so put it this way. Parasite is a very simple, lean machine movie for what it does. And it's like everything, the design that Bong and, this entire team did for that house. Crazy stuff. Okay. Our nominations for this, before I get into it again, is 1917, Irishman, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Parasite, The Lighthouse, Midsommar, and John Wick 3.
I think it's Hollywood, hands down.
I'm fine with that. I think they all have really good production design. I think the bottom four, Parasite, Lighthouse, Midsommar, John Wick, have really good production design. But I love the production design on Hollywood. They integrate so much stuff, and Tarantino pushing this budget to I want just Brad Pitt driving down this road. We're gonna make it look like 1969 again. We're just doing this just for shits, essentially. And the vibes come off so well on camera.
What it reminds me of the production design in Back to the Future. How they have to go and make the town look like it was from that era. They essentially had to do that with Hollywood, and I think they pulled it off spectacularly in a similar way to not only getting the signs right, but getting the feel right. How many times have you seen a movie that's supposed to go back into the past and they change the signs and then it still looks like they're shooting it in 2020? Like it doesn't look right.
And
this
I think
movie does.
Shooting film too, the way that they shot this movie. I think it's when the Rolling Stone Out of Time song is playing and then it's like the sunset is coming down and like the Taco Bell sign comes up, all the signs are turning on. Think about that scene.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that scene is extremely simple, but it's extremely well done. So,
yeah, I mean, even down to the light bulbs being correct. It is
true.
They make sure everything looks the right way, and I like that. But on to another category.
Yeah, we're gonna get into editing now. Obviously, big juice on editing. We have nominations from them. We have Parasite, Joker, Jojo Rabbit, Irishman, and Ford versus Ferrari. Whoa. Ford versus Ferrari won this. Whoa. Okay, that's
awesome,
intense
right?
Right there. That's intense. I will say, Shoemaker, she deserved this one instead. What do you Okay, so for us, our nominations are Knives Out, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Uncut Gems, Ford versus Ferrari, Irishman, and Parasite. So who we arguing here?
So on my page, I'll just tell you I have Ford versus Ferrari bolded, but I'm not feeling super strong about that anymore. Where are you leaning?
I think it's a lean machine. I think Ford versus Ferrari is a 2.5 hour movie that feels it's so good.
Yeah.
It is crazy that he made Ford versus Ferrari, proceeded to make Indiana Jones 5, and the pacing on that hurts my head. Like, I rewatched it with my dad, and we're not the type to turn off movies, but the only two movies I've turned off with him in the last 5 years is Bullet Train and Indiana Jones 5. And we love Harrison Ford and Brad Pitt, and I don't even know if we're going to finish Indiana Jones 5. I've obviously seen the film, but it's just, that's how I know where the narrative pacing, where it's like, if your pacing's off that bad, it's going to hurt you.
The faster you turn that movie off, the better it gets.
Yeah, there's some calculus there right there. You got to optimize that. So I think Knives Out has really good stuff, but it's not the best. Parasite, same thing, great stuff. Uncut's great stuff. But I think Irishman is a 3.5 hour movie, and what Schoonmaker does every time is something else. What do you think? Because I think Schoonmaker, I'd argue that Killers has better editing this year than Irishman, but they're both really good.
No, I don't really want to give it to Irishman, even though the editing is good. I'm actually starting to have a change of heart now, and I'm actually leaning towards Parasite. I didn't think about it, but I think Parasite has the right editing. Its pacing is very well done.
By the time Creepy Man comes out, you just see his eyes
cut, man.
I had nightmares for months, and I'm not even kidding. I would not go to bed alone for like at least 2 weeks.
Talking about incredible
And I remember
cuts.
watching the movie. We're sitting there at y'all's apartment watching the movie, and it's like, okay, the movie's going, okay, and then that happens, and like, oh shit, I'm vibing with it. We can go Parasite because that's really like that movie.
Yeah.
When I think he does it in one shot, he like takes the camera and like takes you downstairs to like the basement and stuff. Bong is the juice.
Plus, we can't get out of this whole year and not give Parasite anything. I would feel bad about that personally. So I think editing's right for that.
I got a lot of love for Bong. He's just one of the best directors we've got.
Okay, we're down to the big ones now. So let's go to Best Actor.
Okay, hit me with the best actors with the BS that they had at the Oscars, Zach.
So for the Best Actor in a leading role, the nominees are Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes, Adam Driver for Marriage Story, Leonardo DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory, and the winner was Joaquin Phoenix for Joker. Just to give a little context around the nominations, I remember when this was happening, a couple things here. One, Jonathan Pryce was probably the last one to make it in here. There was talk about Adam Sandler making it, and he did not. There's also talk about Eddie Murphy making it in, and he did not. Also, when the time came...
We were talking about it. I don't think anybody else was talking about it,
there was some
sadly.
talk, but...
Like, because I think he's better than Jonathan Pryce. I think Sandler's better than him, too. I feel like Antonio gives one of his best performances of his career in Pain and Glory.
I really did like Jonathan Pryce in Two Popes, but I understand. I agree. I just want to say for the context of the year, this was really like a three-man race between Phoenix, DiCaprio, and Driver. Like, Phoenix might have been slightly in the lead, but there was no guarantee. Like, those three were in a three-man race for winning this.
And at some point, he started winning a lot of awards, and they were like, yeah, Joaquin's winning.
It did start to become inevitable at one point, but early on, it was like, oh my God, these are like three great performances. Who do we give it to?
So our nominations are Adam Sandler, Uncut Gems, Joaquin for Joker, Leo for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Song Kang-ho for Parasite, amazing in that movie, Bruce Willis for Glass, Jonathan Pryce for Two Popes, Eddie Murphy for Dolomite Is My Name, and then Matt Damon and Christian Bale both for Ford versus Ferrari. And obviously Eddie Murphy, got a lot of love for him in that performance. I think Matt and Bale are really good. Jonathan Pryce, really good. Song Kang-ho, really coming hard with this one right now for me. Him, Sandler, and Eddie Murphy, honestly. And Leo. Leo's so good in that movie. Like, it's the first time he played that in his entire career, and I loved it so much.
And you can make the argument that Joaquin does the most acting out of anybody here in his movie. Like, he carries it the hardest. So it's a really difficult discussion.
He carried it, and Hilder carried it very hard. And Lawrence Sher, because that movie is really well shot.
This is one of the toughest ones. I would give it to any of these people for the most part with no problem. Where do you want to try to narrow it down to three?
Let's hit it with careers, I guess. I think Dolomite is one of his best of his career. Same with Sandler. Leo, same thing. Song, I've seen him in like 5 movies, but I even can't tell if that's his best performance in Parasite.
I would say Eddie Murphy, it is one of his best performances, but are we rewarding him because he's out of his prime and prime Eddie Murphy didn't get enough credit, or are we rewarding him because of the performance?
It's performance for me.
Okay.
I could separate that. I think he gives genuine heart in the movie, and he has to tackle a very fine line of like being the showman and then being the business side of things and being a hustler at the same time, just trying as hard as he can to get these people together to make these ragtag blaxploitation movies that Rudy Ray Moore made. And he depicts it extremely well. And I always remember by the end of the movie when he's just like, I don't want to go inside. I'm gonna be outside. I'm gonna be with the people. And he just smiles, and then the movie ends, and I'm like, yes.
Give me your 3 here, and then we can narrow it down from there.
Adam, Leo, Eddie.
Okay, so my 3 would have been Adam, Leo, and then Song Kei-ho.
Okay, then let's go Adam and Leo then.
Okay, let's have the Adam.
Who's it gonna be?
And we're talking about Adam Sandler in case anybody wasn't following. So
yeah,
not
Adam Sandler, not Adam
Driver. Even though Adam Driver gave a great performance that year. I should have put him on the list, but this is who we're talking about: Adam Sandler and Leo DiCaprio. Really funny because these two have probably been 2 of the most influential actors in Hollywood in the last 20 years, and for completely maybe 30 years, and for completely different reasons.
Yep, in a good way and a bad way.
This is tough because on one hand, this is probably Adam Sandler's best performance of his career. On the other hand, this is Leo DiCaprio. Even though this might not be Leo's best, it's one of his best.
I'm gonna give it to Leo, honestly, because I think Adam has more range, and he does the frenetic, tense, stressful vibes extremely well. As like, where's the rock? You know, like the stress of that movie haunts me. And it haunts everybody. That's the whole point. But I think Leo gives every bit of like, it's a lot of acting, but he's got, I don't know what it is. There's some sauce there that he typically doesn't have. I think it's a better performance than The Revenant. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much just as good, if not a little bit better, in my opinion, than Wolf of Wall Street.
I disagree, but I think it's close.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying. For me, it's one of my favorites from him. It's, if I had to pick one off the top of my head, I'd say Hollywood.
Yeah. So I think I agree with you for Leo. And I remember every year now I do it on Twitter, but on Facebook, I used to make a post of like what I think should win every nominee. And I would only pick from the nominees. And I remember this year, it took me a long time to sit there and figure out, did I want to go Joaquin or Leo? And ultimately, I think I went Joaquin just because of how much he carried that movie. But what I'm trying to do over the last few years is stop giving people credit for when they do the most acting as opposed to... Yeah, and I say that a lot on this pod. Most versus best. And I think Joaquin did a great job, I think I rewarded him for the most acting and not the best acting, which I think was Leo's role, which was a little more understated and, almost second place to Brad Pitt in the movie.
But I think the thing is that I think it goes for every single conversation where it's like editing, sound mixing, cinematography. It's like you can have the most beautiful looking movie, but if it doesn't connect with your story or anything like that, it doesn't work. You have to have the right marriage of items for it all to work.
Yeah.
Adam and Joaquin and Eddie, at least in this, in this nomination categories that we have for best actor, they all hold up their movies extremely hard. Like if they weren't there, the movie wouldn't work. Yep. And Leo is there too, but I think, with Brad there, it works extremely well too. That Tom Cruise what if is it'll be interesting if Tom Cruise ends up working with Tarantino on his last movie. If it happens, it'll be something.
You're talking about best performances. That was one of the best performances of Brad Pitt's career.
Yeah.
But it's almost weird for me to say that, but then also say I really wish we got the Tom Cruise version.
But I think the thing is that that role itself, I think Brad Pitt has done a lot of acting, especially when he was younger. Like when he did Snatch, that's a lot of acting. I wouldn't say it's the best acting, but it's he's doing a lot of acting in that movie. But this is a role where Tarantino understands his vibe, and it's like he cast the casting was perfect to where it's like he can step back a little from the dialogue and he just kind of exists, right? Yeah. I think if you run the runtime for the movie, we spend the most time with him out of everybody.
Yeah, well, I think we're on the same page then.
Okay, all that being said, let's run into the best leading actress in a role for 2020. Let's hear some BS. Charlize Theron, amazing actress, should have been nominated for Mad Max, but she got nominated this year for Bombshell. We have Saoirse Ronan, one of the best under 30. She might be 30. Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story. Cynthia Erivo for Harriet. She's going to be in Wicked this year. Fantastic actress. And then Renee Zellweger-Wand for Judy, a Judy Garland biopic. And my emblematic example of we need to stop making biopic movies just so actors can win Oscars. Because that's what that shit was. So I'm just going to go straight into our nominees because I don't even want to get into that horse, that crap. We have Awkwafina for The Farewell, her best performance of her career. Florence Pugh for Midsommar, fantastic. I think it's still her best performance. Jennifer Lopez for Hustlers. Saoirse Ronan for Little Women, Naomi Marlant for Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and Beanie Feldstein and Caitlin Dever for Booksmart.
Yeah, I don't think this much.
Leaning,
I don't think this one's an argument. I honestly.
Who is it?
I think it's Saoirse.
Naomi's not there. Because I've seen Naomi in other stuff. I know how good of an actress she is.
She's fantastic, but because that is such a 2-woman movie, it's really hard for me to separate the performances because they're they're intertwined.
The intimacy
so much
is
of the
there,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah, they spend so much time together in that movie. It's hard to separate them for me.
I understand that. Awkwafina, she's really good, really understated performance. Florence is literally losing her mind in Midsommar the entire movie. J-Lo, she's like, she just comes in and just like, she's the most magnetic thing there in that movie. And Constance Wu is around her a lot, but I don't think it's not this. So I agree. Saoirse Ronan. There's nothing to argue about that there. Saoirse is one of our best actresses in, a younger age group. Mm-hmm. And every time she comes on screen, whatever role it is, she's always doing something compelling. And I mean, this movie, she holds it up. As soon as the movie starts, that shot of her just running through the street, it's just, you're in. Perfectly, you're in.
Funny enough, I wish she would have won it for this. And I think because she won it for Lady Bird, it took away most opportunities for her to win it for this, because I think this was actually better than her Lady Bird performance.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that, but I think the problem is that they are just, I mean, like I said, what campaigning, what's the delusion behind nominating Judy for an Oscar for a lead actress role? No offense to Jessica Chastain, one of my favorite actresses of all time, but she won her Oscar very recently for a biopic movie that is going to be lost to time. It's not going to stand the test of time because there's nothing compelling there besides a performance. It's just really good acting with nothing else to support it.
Yeah.
But like Saoirse, Little Women, they gonna be showing that in the schools. That's how good it is. And it's like, I think it's one of those movies, you know how we watch like 12 Angry Men and stuff like in Moynihan's class?
Yeah.
It's going to be like that. It's going to be like, they're going to show Little Women in class and be like, fuck, that's a good movie.
Yeah.
And kids are going to come away with, like, that's what I mean by, like, Barbie. We might not be the hugest fans of it, but I hope that people go back and watch Lady Bird. They go back and watch Saoirse Ronan and Little Women, because they're going to find some amazing work that Greta's done. And once we look at, in 20 years, when we look at Greta's career, they're going to be like, yeah, that's one of her best still.
And before I get killed on Twitter for Barbie takes, I like Barbie a lot. I have such high affinity for the director there that her other work has actually been better. So that's my only negative on Barbie. Like, this Little Woman, Lady Bird, they're all better than that movie, but it's still a really good movie. So when I shit on it's because I expect a certain level from her.
It's not even that. For me, like I told you, just emotionally, from my perspective, I just would have preferred America Ferrera's character. That's it. And it's like, I understand the box that they were put into the movie they had to make. And for that, obviously Margot is fantastic. Everyone is fantastic in that movie. But it's just narratively, I felt like they could have added just a little bit more of a emotional punch between the mother, like Ariana Greenblatt, the daughter, and America Ferrera's character. Which, I mean, obviously the movie hits the emotional highs, especially with, the old lady on the bench and all that stuff. But it's just me. I don't know. That's just my perspective.
As the pod's community woman and token white girl, I love Barbie. And there's a lot of layers to it that, unfortunately, a lot of people can't relate to unless they grew up as a girl, especially in the 2010s and 2000s and earlier and such. It's very much reminiscent of my childhood, and it hits me in the, hey, you grew up with this bullshit. But also Zach's totally covering his ass so his wife doesn't kill him.
I mean, you're 100% right. I'm not saying the movie's bad, but I think emotionally, y'all left shit on the table.
Oh, there could have been more.
What Greta did is fantastic, but I think it's just it's emblematic of a bigger issue with Hollywood. It's I'm not depending on Greta Gerwig to tell stories of, people of color. That's not her job. That's not her responsibility. I'm not holding her to that, but I can't just say I like this movie when I have an issue with it. That's all it is. And I do like Barbie. Barbie's good,
No, for sure.
I'm just Ken, okay? Anywhere else, I'd be a 10. Zach,
what are you on the pod? A 3? I'm kidding.
Oh, Jesus.
Sorry.
Okay.
Hit us with the Best Picture nominations that they had for the Oscars, Zach.
Yeah, that was a great intro into Best Picture, talking about a 2023 movie. Let's do it. So this was one of the few years where I've seen every single movie nominated for Best Picture. And also, I really liked all of them, well, except for one. So for Best Picture, the
Jojo
nominees
Rabbit.
were Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
Goated.
1917,
Goated.
Marriage Story,
Pretty good.
Little Women,
Goated.
Joker,
Pretty good.
Jojo Rabbit,
Pretty good.
The Irishman, Ford
Fantastic.
versus Ferrari,
Dad love.
and the winner, which was a big surprise, Parasite.
Parasite, talking about, LeBron and D Wade, Miami Heat, Michael Jordan, whatever, like the GOAT of the GOAT, having a Korean movie, just a movie that's not American win this category, be nominated for this category. Like I said, I would have hoped that RR, SS Rajamouli would have been in there, but they didn't. But this is such a big win just for history that I'm just like, oh yeah, finally we have like a little bit of validation for Asians in America. I love it. But
Not to get on a soapbox here, but Roma walked so Parasite could win, okay? I was sure that Roma was going to be
True.
the first foreign language film to win Best Picture, and then Green Book won. And no, Parasite's a deserving winner here, but part of this was a effort by the Academy to correct the mistake they made with Green Book winning over Roma. I believe fueled a lot of the Parasite for Best Picture win, which was an awesome moment. Not to take anything away from Parasite.
Not to discount what he's done. That's for sure.
Okay.
So the nominations that we have are Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for Best Picture, Little Women, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Midsommar, The Lighthouse, Uncut Gems, Dolomite Is My Name, Ford versus Ferrari, The Farewell, Booksmart. So those are our nominations for Golden Pursuit 2019 Oscars. So who are we going for Best Picture here?
Okay, so the way I want to do this is let's just start eliminating things and work up from there. So I think we can throw out The Farewell. I think we can throw out Booksmart. I think we can throw out Ford versus Ferrari.
You threw out The Farewell real fast, but I will say
what about it?
You will like it very much. But
maybe I shouldn't be the one picking what we throw out. Maybe you give me a top three, and I'll give you my top three, and we go from there.
We'll throw out Booksmart, though. I can agree on that. Lighthouse we can throw out, right?
Okay, wait. I'm gonna mark these off on our sheet. Yeah, we can throw out Lighthouse. We can throw out Booksmart.
I am trepidatious about saying this, but I mean this by no malice towards the movie. We can throw out Midsommar too.
Okay, and I'll throw out Portrait because you haven't seen it. I would make an argument.
We can throw out Farewell since you haven't seen it. I can agree on that. You can throw it out because I think you'll really like the movie. Like, I think the way that she shot that movie and everything is like extremely well done. What Lulu Wang and her team did with that movie. You know the dad from Rush Hour, the first one, Consulate Han. His daughter gets to Zima. The one that's in Arrival. He plays Awkwafina's dad in the movie.
Yeah, great actor.
So he's just like broken in the movie because like he knows his mom's gonna die. He can't tell his mom's gonna die. Like tell her you're dying. So it's like it's a whole thing. Good movie.
Okay,
but not on our winning list. Is Little Women on our list because I love that movie. Now
it would be in my top three.
It would be in your top three. Okay. So my top three is the three movies I've been talking too much about the entire time, which is Dolomite, Ford. Okay. I'll go Dolomite, Little Women, Hollywood.
Okay. So we want that to be our top three. So Dolomite's a lot higher than I thought it would be. That's good for it.
I think, like I said, Dolomite for me is just as good as Ford versus Ferrari. Dolomite is just as good as Hollywood in my eyes too. But I understand there's some like tiny elements where it's kind of held back, but it's not really held back in my eyes. We can drop it out of the race and make it Hollywood and Little Women.
No, I think honestly, Dolomite is for you is where Little Woman is for me, where it's my silver medal here. It's Hollywood, I think, is our winner. I think we could both agree on that, right?
Like Hollywood might be coming in June at this rate because we talking about it.
Well,
like that's how good it is.
I think when all's said and done, this is either going to be my first or second favorite Tarantino movie. I think this is
it's sitting at one for me. This and Django are sitting up there.
I think this is going to be just as rewatchable as Django and Bastards is for us. I think that these performances are going to age really well. And I don't know how Tarantino supposes last movie's going to go, but this really felt like almost like the bookend of his career. And I think when you're talking about the phases of Tarantino, his early phase, his mid phase, and his late phase, when people talk about his late phase, the first movie they're going to talk about is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
And I think, I mean, like everybody has such a different like ranking of his movies. And I think for me, the thing fundamentally is that this is a movie based within his love for this area, this time, these people. And that's not the case for any of his movies otherwise. I think he respects his characters extremely well. That's why we're able to have this great dialogue. But the love that he shows in this movie, he's never done it. He's never going to do it again. So this still stays on top.
Yeah, I would say what makes this movie special is that compared to his other movies where he goes and changes the past, he does it out of a historical rage where he's mad about how, what Hitler did. He's mad about how, slaves were treated. He goes in, the end of those movies are so violent. And there is violence at the end of Hollywood, but it's not this hateful rage to want to change the past. It's this like sorrow or regret or this, it's a lot smaller.
It's a condolence. That's what it is.
Yeah, this person, he's
like,
thinks
I wish I could have kind of just done this and this would have been lovely. But like, life wasn't this nice.
This was the death of an innocent woman who he felt like should have had more of a career. And this was a love letter to her at the end. And it shows growth for Tarantino that you don't see in his other movies. And that's why it's such a fascinating way, even though it's not his last movie. In fact, it's at the end of his career that he says he's going to have directing. I still don't believe it. It's really fascinating to see the growth there. So it's meaningful in a lot of ways. And I think it's a very well-deserved Best Picture winner for the Golden Pursuits. So congratulations to Quentin Tarantino. I'm sure this award will be on your mantle.
Yeah. And I think also it's a movie where he's being sentimental in a good way and he's not being offensive. Think about Philip Seymour Hoffman, Chadwick Boseman. These guys have passed away recently, right? But imagine if someone made a movie in like 50 years about them. And like, oh, like maybe they made a Black Panther 2 with him or something like that. Or you know how bad that would be, like how distasteful it would be? It would feel disrespectful, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very, very fine line to draw, and he did it right somehow.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing going into this movie is, and this is, I guess, spoiler alert for real life and Once a Time in Hollywood. So just, you can end the pod now if you don't want to hear all
guys,
this.
I'm the naive one.
But the way that
we've somehow made it through the entire like 2 hours of this and not even talked about a spoiler, which I'm happy.
Yeah, I think we did good. But the decision to not kill Sharon Tate was not something anybody was aware of going to the movie. We get to there and it gets to the scene where it's playing the song "Baby, Baby, You're Out of Time," and they go to the Mexican restaurant. And there's a whole thing about her going to this Mexican restaurant the night that she died. And so I knew that. So when we got to that scene, I'm like, is he really going to kill her? Is he really going to go forward with this? I don't know how I feel about this. That's a lot. And then we get to the part and he so expertly changes the frame. You're like, oh, this is why the movie's through the frame of these two characters. Because she's a side character because in this universe, this never even happens to her. She's fine. So she's a side character in this movie on purpose because the two guys who get visited by the murderers are main characters, Brad Pitt and Leo DiCaprio, and they handle it differently. And it's such a sweet way for him to say this is an innocent woman who's just having this is an innocent woman have a great life. And her only interaction with these characters is at the very end when she invites him over for, drinks or whatever, like it's very much
picture of margaritas.
This is what her life should have been. And he's mad that this is not what her life was. And he wishes this for her. And it's very sweet. And it's just a letter to her and the death of Hollywood that he romanticizes a lot.
Yeah. That sort of like level of emotion in this like almost positive way is not usually the way he goes at it, right? Yeah, he has the violence here at the end, but even then it's a bit tempered for what he usually does. And I'm saying that, and it sounds weird to say, especially when this man pulls out the flamethrower.
But it is.
Alrighty, so that is the Golden Pursuit Awards for 2019 movies for the 2020 Oscars. We will probably do this next year. We do it every year for ourselves either way. We will be doing this next year yet again for the 2015 movies and the 2020 movies. So it's going to be two extremely compelling years of movies to talk about, whether it's Mad Max or Minari, Sound of Metal, Bad Education, Spotlight, Big Short. We got a lot of... Next year it's going to be very compelling.
Damn, look at the big brain on you just rattling those off.
Yeah, the only time this information ever becomes useful. It's not useful anywhere else. They're like, oh, who shot Big Short? Oh, it's Barry Ackroyd. Who shot Mad Max? Oh, John Seal. He was like 73 when he shot that movie. Who needs to know this stuff?
This podcast was created so he can have an outlet, guys.
Guys, welcome to my therapy.
But yeah, thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed this very special discussion that me and Vikash have every year. This is our first time recording it for other people to listen to. So if you do hear it and have any ideas, any feedback, we'd love to hear it because this is something that we love doing and want to continue doing. So we really appreciate you listening to this.
And hit us up wherever it is, Twitter, Instagram. Don't hit me up on TikTok. Anywhere, just we love a conversation. We'll see y'all next time. We have School of Rock coming soon. It is Jack Black and Linklater, one of his best movies, one of his most successful movies too, but it's juice. We're going to have a great time with it. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Cinema Pursuit. Cinema Pursuit is produced by Katie Nadell, Zach Nadell, and Vikas Patel. Special thanks to Cole Cooper for the intro and outro music. You can listen to Cinema Pursuit on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you may listen to podcasts. Follow us on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Cinema Pursuit Podcast, Twitter or X at Cin Pursuit Pod, and check out our subreddit, r/Cinema Pursuit.